Hello. This is my video for the three things activity response. My 3 points are going to be minimum wage and the economy itself, um, the marriage and divorce rates and how it affects mainly the kids, and lastly, just the mindset of the everyday person, especially that's being spread throughout things like social media and stuff. I'll get more into that in a bit. Um, so firstly, right now in most places around the world, minimum wage isn't enough. Working full-time minimum wage isn't enough uh, to live. Basically, it's not enough to feed yourself, pay for rent, pay for bills, pay for gas, especially with how much the prices are increasing. It's it it just isn't enough. And if you have a family as well, it makes it even worse, especially if you have kids. You need to feed them, you need to take them to school, something happens, some unexpected bills come in, some unexpected payment. Working minimum wage isn't enough, and I feel no matter what job you're working, you should make enough money to be able to live, especially if you're a single parent, which brings me into my next um, topic, which is marriage rates and divorce. Right now in the US, there's a 50% divorce rate for first marriages, and for second and more, it's over a 60 to like 67% divorce rate, which is insane. Marriage is supposed to be a promise, a commitment to spend the rest of your life with one another, someone who you want to see yourself with for the rest of your life. It's a commitment, and yet people are just tossing it around as like like a loose promise or something, where the first signs of like the relationship starting to get shaky or that things aren't going the way that you want, people instantly just go to divorce. And it's also being spread around, like, through social media and stuff, that if you're not happy, it's your significant other person's fault or somebody else's fault. It's not yours, and you need to go and fix it, and you need to get out of that relationship or whatever. So little nowadays are people willing to go and try to work things out and through, and they just want the easy, quick way out, which is divorce. And that's really affecting kids, as most kids nowadays are growing up with only one parent, or even worse, growing up in foster care or with someone who isn't their biological parents. And it's more common than not that you will see kids with divorced parents nowadays, or families and siblings with different dads and stuff. And that brings me into my last point, which is just the mindset that is being spread around in general. This selfish mindset that you should live your life however you want and whatever pleases you the most. Like how I said with marriages, it's people just want to live however they want and whatever makes them feel good without consequences. This leads into things like drugs, alcohol, smoking, all of which are very much legal and allowed in like every state, um, except for drugs. But even then, some drugs are being legalized everywhere, which leads into things like overdose, drunk driving, um, cancer, all this bad stuff. But people are just like, oh, well, it makes me feel good, it's pleasing to me, without thinking of the consequences. Also leads into things like relationships, where it's like, oh, you aren't getting what you want from this relationship, that means they aren't good enough, you should drop them. Or just this mindset that everything that you do needs to be pleasing to you, and if it's not, then you're doing something wrong. And that and that other people aren't, like, if you aren't happy with your relationships or stuff, it's other people's fault. It's a very self-centered mindset and a very selfish one, and yet it's very common nowadays for people to be encouraging others to live the life you want, which sounds fine, but it's very selfish in its core and leads to many consequences and many other hurt and dysfunctional relationships, many actual health issues with and stuff like that. And it just, I feel like it's one of the main causes for a lot of our problems nowadays. It's just the selfish, greedy nature that you should live the life you want and you desire, because if you're only focusing on you, other people are going to get hurt.